Hello to the wonderful few that will stumble across this. I came across a video of which a man appears to not understand what he's even asking for. And I'm going to force Aura to sit through this. Say hello, Aura.
Hi, everybody.
Now, the beginning of it is not the most interesting, but, well, you'll see.
So the other day, I asked you guys in a poll a very simple question. Which art style do you prefer in Zelda games? Realistic or more stylized? Well,
Which do you prefer, Aura?
I like a combination of the two. Like, such as, Ocarina of Time. Or Majora's Mask, where it is it's kind of a combination of both.
You prefer the combination?
Mm-hmm.
I would say either a combination or like a Breath of the Wild look. I think those are the two best.
Mm-hmm.
I would not say that Twilight Princess is particularly realistic because there's all kinds of oddly shaped things in that game, but it is probably the most realistic graphically of Twilight Princess. Or of almost
Zelda
realistic
franchise.
graphically of the Zelda franchise, yeah.
Probably.
well, I see a 50-50 split. To my surprise, over 70% of people preferred stylized Zelda games to the mere 28%.
Yeah, because I would not call Ocarina of Time realistic. It was trying to look like its art, which was anime.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good thing. It looks good.
Yeah.
Percent
fine.
that didn't. So then I asked a follow-up poll to this question, which was how often would you like to see Nintendo release stylized games versus realistic ones? But this time I had three answers, being mostly stylized games with some realistic games every so often, mostly realistic games with some stylized games every so often, or a 50-50 balance of realistic and stylized Zelda games. And despite what the previous
So which do you think is probably the most voted for out of 501 votes?
Well, seeing as the last ranking went, people like to see more stylized games. It's probably gonna be number one.
A fair guess.
polls results showed, these answers yet again surprised me. But before we get on to those results, I think it's important to understand how we got here, why I'm making this video on a topic that I really don't hear people talk about. And that's, of course, why I'm getting tired of stylized Zelda games. Well, I'm like sorta getting tired of them. I'm more getting tired of how often they're being used. And just for clarification here,
You know, for all those Zelda games that have come out in the last
So he's in the
few
minority.
years. Yes.
when I say stylized, I mean the Zelda games that stray away from looking realistic. Having cartoony portions like Wind Waker, cell shading like Breath of the Wild, or having a painting style like Skyward Sword. Those types of things.
You
His
know,
eyes were haunting.
things that make the game stand out from the rest of the realistic AAA RPGs.
Because I really like each of these styles in their own right. They are all used very well to complement the game world that they're in. And it's just great to see that one single series can change the style so seamlessly between all the entries. But
You know, that's fair.
now I feel they're being used to a point where the impact of a new style
Link's Awakening.
just doesn't stand out anymore. Because before, I thought they had a great balance of realistic games and stylized cartoony ones. And now it's...
We're on nipples.
You know what? To better understand where I'm coming from in the matter, I think we need to go back to where this all started. When
We're gonna have to go back to the beginning. You ready for this Jimmy Neutron style brain blast?
Dangerous to go alone. Take this.
the very first art style was introduced
Cyanide
build up
pill.
to Zelda art styles now. Alright,
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time, the first 3D Zelda game. See, before this, Zelda games were always trying to be more realistic. And this just
Can't you tell? This is supposed to be realistic.
Realism. Pink hair.
The pink hair and then the promotional imagery of the game, which was totally realistic, not at all cartoony.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think this person understands what he's asking or even saying,
Think so either.
and it's gonna get only more clear as the video goes on.
Just because, well, graphics were evolving at a fast pace, so companies kept wanting to make their games more and more realistic to show off what their hardware could do. And that was just the case with Zelda as well, which led to the style seen in Ocarina of Time. It was a very literal translation of the 2D sprites into a 3D form. And
very literal, can't you tell?
Uh-huh.
And while yes, it has aged, for me personally, the designs of the characters...
And that's the thing. Look at the Animu, the late 80s, early 90s anime art style of the art.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they remade the game on the 3DS, the character models look like this, and it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
That is not that is not realism.
No.
Unless I'm crazy. And I don't know. Maybe I'm the retard who doesn't know what words mean.
We might be crazy, but not crazy about this.
Were some favorites when looking at the artwork for the game. And then the game right after, Majora's Mask, shared this same art style.
Almost like it's a sequel.
Almost like it was made 6 months after Ocarina of Time finished.
Almost
Using the
as
same
if...
assets.
But this was short-lived, because the next Zelda game after that, Nintendo already went for a different look to Zelda. The Wind Waker, and as you can see, it has a cel-shaded, very cartoony-like visual look. And it's funny, now everyone loves this style and says it's aged well, but back then, people hated this.
And it did age well.
Games and consoles kept getting more realistic with every generation, but Zelda goes for a kid's look? This is child's play, is what the fans were saying. But when it came...
Now, let's talk about that real quick, about how everyone says at the time, this game doesn't look as good as all those other games. But as time has gone on, Wind Waker still looks fine. Those other games look like dog shit.
Yep.
It's almost like chasing after realism for your graphics ages your game like a fine milk on a hot summer day.
Remember when everybody thought that Elder Scrolls Oblivion was so high cutting edge, and now we're left with Ice Cream Head?
Yep. I'm your biggest fan.
I'm your biggest fan. Oh, I'm dying.
That I wasn't really following Zelda games at the time. I just kind of played whatever, but from what I've heard, this is how people seem to react. And Nintendo also heard the response because they were originally going to make their next Zelda game to follow this style. But yeah, after the backlash, they made the game that everyone wanted. The realistically dark Zelda game, Twilight Princess.
You can tell it's realistic by the shape of Midna right there with her fat ass.
That's right.
And yes, at the time, everyone loved it. But yeah, once again, funny enough, it seemed like the people have flipped their opinion about these two styles of games. Because now everyone seems to love the style of the Wind Waker and say that Twilight Princess hasn't aged well.
But it hasn't.
I mean, it hasn't aged nearly as well, but I haven't actually run into that many people who say it looks bad. Because it's still stylized a bit.
Yeah. It's not as realistic as he seems to think it is.
Yeah, he's under the impression that it's like the Resident Evil remake, the first one, if you remember that. How when that came out, that was like the absolute shit of realism.
This game still has an art style. It's just not, like, extravagant.
Yeah. Which... it's somewhat realistic comparatively, but...
Also, he's already compared cel shading and the painted look to being stylized.
As if they're the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna get more stupid in a second.
Yeah, I believe it.
Personally, I just really like the look of Twilight Princess. All the designs and characters just seem to be the most iconic out of all the different iterations of them.
Ocarina of Time Link is the most iconic Link.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think that's a question.
I mean, he's so iconic that he makes an appearance in Twilight Princess. Multiple.
Most people, if you ask them to think of Link, it's going to be the Ocarina of Time Link or something similar to that. It's not going to be the Twilight Princess Link. And that's mostly because most people will forget the chainmail.
Oh, yeah.
And especially after the HD release, I think the visuals do look great.
HD releases tits.
Once again, they went for a completely new style in Skyward Sword. Really unlike anything we've seen before. The visuals are all bright and make you feel like you're in a work of art.
It's just weird to me, because he's acting like these games came out one right after the other, but like, this is only the 5th 3D Zelda game in 12 years? at this point.
Something like that.
Because Ocarina of Time came out, what, like 98?
There were a lot of handheld games.
Yeah, I know, but just going with the 3D ones, like...
Right.
And,
I'm just saying, like, most of them were handheld 2D. Agreeing with what you were saying earlier.
yeah, and then Skyward Sword, I think, came out in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm pretty sure Ocarina of Time came out in 98. So that's only 5 games, because Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, then Skyward Sword, over the course of like 12 years.
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
It's not... I don't know, maybe I'm crazy.
This would be to actually take inspiration from Picasso paintings. And personally, I love this style. Definitely an underrated look for the Zelda series. And also, I'd say at this point, I was very happy with how they were handling the different art styles in the games. I thought they had a lot of variance between the quote-unquote stylized games versus the more realistic ones. It seemed like...
Again, calling Ocarina of Time the realistic one is just strange to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could have used the Twilight Princess link right there. It would have been more acceptable.
Like, he keeps saying, like, stylized, but this is a fully adult Link. He looks like an actual person. Why is this not realistic? Other than the coloration.
Yeah,
It's colorful to draw the eye. What's wrong with that?
I just don't think he understands art style.
I don't think so either.
Like every main series 3D Zelda game alternated between styles, which was great. But then...
But they didn't. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask shared the same style. Then we got the really cell-shaded look with Wind Waker. Then we got the pseudo... I'll be generous. The realistic Twilight Princess. So it went from anime to cartoon to realistic to painting.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't exactly an even flip-flop.
After this...
I was going to say, you know what I think happened here? I think that he had a deadline for an article he had to make.
You mean a video?
And, or article, video, whatever he was doing. And he just grabbed the first thing he could grab. And just started talking out of his butt.
Maybe.
But there's not a lot of concrete evidence for what he's saying.
Is this kind of my feelings?
Mm-hmm. These are my feelings about it.
Things got crazy. Because the Wii U was coming out. It was Nintendo's first HD video game console, which was a big deal. And since the last Zelda was all stylized, it only made sense for the next one to be more realistic. And at first, it seemed like...
Again, maybe I have just a different definition of realistic in my head, but that still looks cartoony to me.
I'm pretty sure he's in the boss room where he was supposed to fight Goma.
Yep. It was a tech demo.
When they released this Zelda Wii U tech demo.
Yep,
Just look at this. It's the HD Zelda we've all dreamed about. Link looks so cool. The enemies looked epic.
It's literally just I think he just really likes Twilight Princess because these are both just the Twilight Princess models, but updated.
I think so. Yeah.
And the environments were just like the artwork. And after this, we got...
Because I'm pretty sure this is the Twilight Princess Temple of Time, isn't it?
I think so.
Just, again, at the time, the brand new HD technology that Nintendo hadn't had yet.
Mm-hmm.
A trailer for a spin-off Zelda game known as Hyrule Warriors. But the significance of this was it was the first time where we got a look of what this art style actually looked like in a game. Look at Link again. Beautiful.
This is not the same art style as the tech demo.
No.
This is a Zelda plus Dynasty Warriors art style. It is not Twilight Princess.
Ryan's played many hours of this game.
Far too many. On the Wii U version, I have somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 hours over 3 different accounts. I had over 100 hours on the DS version, which... Fuck, man, that sucks ass. And then I am lacking in the Wii on the Switch version, hours wise. I'm only at I'm not even at 100 yet, but that's because, man, it's really hard to regrind through a bunch of the same shit for the 5th time.
Yep. Ooh.
These Zelda
That
worlds
hurts me.
from our imaginations. Then after that, there were more games that showed Zelda characters in HD. Smash Brothers for the Wii U was shown off, and damn!
Smash Bros. Isn't realism.
Look, it's Link.
The Link seemed to use this art style
Again, he has a generally animu.
Was it the monkey or the angel?
Is it?
too, and it
Or
looked
pet.
He has a general animu style to him, a cartoon, if you will, because Smash Bros is not designed to be realistic.
Well, no,
just as
exactly.
good. So
Smash
what a
Brothers
great
is
build-up and
playing
tease
with
for
toys.
what the first
Yeah.
HD Zelda game would look like on the Wii U.
Literally.
There were so many games that showed off this style, and it was all building up to one great first HD Zelda game.
Wait,
No, it was not.
how many games was he?
The Wii U. There were so many games that showed off this style.
How many games were showing off the Twilight Princess art style, but in HD?
There's a tech demo. There was Hyrule Warriors, and I'm pretty sure he's jumped right to Smash.
Yeah, those. Smash Bros does not have the same art style as fucking Twilight Princess.
And it was all building up to one great first HD Zelda game, and when that trailer was
Well, it
finally
wasn't.
shown off, and it was another cel-shaded, stylized.
So,
Which we didn't get.
Tweedledum here, what he doesn't seem to understand is, although Breath of the Wild and Wind Waker are both cel-shaded, they don't look the same.
Huh.
Like, even a little bit.
Zelda. Listen, okay, Breath of the Wild is probably like the best Zelda game ever, but it
Oh.
No.
That's why he's only showing the tech demo stuff. For the videos.
The
for it.
announcement demo, yeah.
The announcement demo.
Announcement trailer, I should say.
at this point in time, I was just looking for more of a change, more of
Back when Guardians were going to chase you around and it was going to be tits.
Would have been great.
It would have been great.
an accurate interpretation in
Oh, look
HD.
at that.
Zelda just has so much potential for this type of style that just hasn't been utilized.
Does it, though? Because hyperrealism ages a game so bad. Like, in 20 years, Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time on 3D, Skyward Sword, even Breath of the Wild will still all look good. Hell, because it's stylized, Twilight Princess HD will still look good.
What's your favorite Sonic game? Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 or Sonic 06?
Yeah,
That had a slightly realistic looking Eggman and Princess Lady.
Princess Elise. Yeah,
Who was
it's-
into furries.
this is a fucking brainlet.
There are some gorgeous and imaginative locations in Zelda that I just want to see in a full realistic makeover. And after Breath of the Wild comes the most recent Zelda game that we got, which was a remake of an older Zelda game called Link's Awakening. But this time they completely changed the art style, and it looked awesome.
It is a lot different from the original Game Boy. Who would
Yeah,
have
they made
thought? They went from a 2D game to a 3D game, so shocker, the art style changed.
Awesome. It was like controlling a virtual Link toy in this diorama-esque world. Everything looked great and totally unique.
And this does not look anything like the other 3D Zelda games either. I mean, I don't even know what to say to his nonsense right here.
But this is where I really started to realize that maybe I would have liked this style more if it came out at a time where we weren't just seeing stylized Zelda games. Because as I played further and further into the game, I just kept saying things like, yeah, that boss looks cool, but man, he would have looked way more threatening or daunting if he was realistic.
To be fair, a realistic, a more not this art style, a version of this game probably would look better. I'm not a fan of the toy look personally. I don't know about you.
Shiny look.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the plastic toy look, but I know a lot of people were.
Or, yeah, that mountain looks great, but it would look better and more natural if they made it like...
Like, dude, the whole thing doesn't look natural. It was designed to look like a plastic toy.
To
It's
be
just
fair, it's part of a dream, so
yeah, but I mean that's just the general art style of the game, though.
yeah.
That'd be like, man, yeah, Halo would look better if it looked like Stretch Panic.
Look like Glover.
It's just. I mean, would it? You're asking for a completely fucking different design style.
And it wasn't just me either this time. There was actually a lot of debate regarding
just
this
got hit
art
by
style
fish.
online.
Yep.
Some people loved it, while others even refused to buy the game because of how much they hated it. Yes, and that brings us to present day with no sign of a realistic style ever returning. We do know what the next 3D Zelda game is, and it's a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild in the same art style.
No shit, it's gonna be the same art style if it's a... Well, this video is like 2 years old. So no shit, it's gonna be the same art style. It's a sequel. You fucking lugnut.
And after that, who knows? We could see a more realistic game, but I don't know. It's just not seeming like that's the direction they're going in. But what about the poll at the start of the video, I hear you say? Don't most people like the stylized look? So isn't this a good thing that the style appeals to most fans? Well,
Nope, 'cause
yes,
it
that
hurts
is
my
true that
feelings.
more people like stylized
That's
games.
right.
But now I think it would be a good time to go over the results of my next question, being how often would you like to see each style of Zelda games? Because surprisingly, 63% of people would prefer a balance between both styles.
Yes, but 28% would rather see a mostly stylized. So add that to the 50-50 split. And the majority of people...
28 to 9.
Yeah. So the majority of people would want a stylized game.
The ones who have a preference would prefer the stylized.
Yeah. Man, it's just... How can you read your own poll and not understand it?
Of the split, if you will. And in fact, just over a quarter of people want mostly stylized games. And no one is wrong in their answers in this poll. You are all entitled to like what you like. But it seems now Nintendo is not doing what a majority of people would actually like to see, and is really only appealing to a quarter
Literally, your own polls showed the opposite of what you were saying.
of Zelda fans. Well, at least from the people in this sample size.
Of your own sample size. You are reading it incorrectly.
But they do balance the art styles, right? Well, no, I'm gonna completely disagree with you on that. It's like they are specifically only making stylized Zelda games. Seriously, if you look at all the Zelda games they've made since the first stylized game...
They're all stylized.
I find it strange that he clumps Wind Waker with Skyward Sword or Breath of the Wild. Very, very strange. They're completely different.
His brain is smooth and only seems to operate under cartoony or not cartoony.
I think so.
And not understanding that that's not how this works.
Also, he keeps talking about like realistic, and it's like he even said it like with the older games how they're supposed to be realistic. He doesn't know they're supposed to be realistic. That's all the system could handle at that point in time.
Yeah.
For all you know, they wanted it to look like that.
We kind of know what they want to look like. They made the art for it.
Oh yeah, we got cartoon art styles.
Yeah, and then when they made it on the 3DS, they kept that cartoony look because other games were coming out with realistic art on the cover and in the pamphlets and shit. Right, so it wasn't intended to look realistic. It's always had a style to it, a cartoony style.
Look at John Halo.
Yeah, like a John Halo.
I mean, obviously, like, it's kind of hard to tell with just a Spartan. But, like, Sergeant Johnson looks very realistic in the artwork he had.
Yeah. And he looks as realistic as they could look at the time. Or GoldenEye, right?
Sure.
And
job.
Yeah. If they wanted the game to look realistic, they would have realistic art in the promotional shit. They didn't, because they don't want it to look that way.
Right.
I don't think I'm saying anything controversial here. I think I'm being fairly reasonable.
Sounds like it.
There has only been one realistic Zelda game. And don't forget that Twilight Princess was only made in the style that it was due to fan backlash from the Wind Waker. They would have kept every game stylized as far as I know if no one said anything. And not only that, right?
But you haven't proven why that's a bad thing. You've only made the false conclusion to your own poll that you read incorrectly.
Yeah. Like, is he even a Zelda fan? If all he cares about are the quote-unquote stylized games, when that is the majority of the games.
I'm willing to bet he's a Zelda fan. I'm just willing to bet he doesn't understand what art style means.
I mean,
He's
there's that too.
probably one of those idiots who confuses art style for graphical fidelity.
That's possible.
Because there's a lot of people like that, and we're like, ah, yes, Call of Duty and Halo are like two games that are like they're both realistic, but they both have different art styles. Yeah, it's just a strange thing that most people seem to be unable to do.
I haven't forgotten about the handheld games either, because since the Wind Waker, they've all been stylized.
Because it's on the handheld, you fucking retard.
Mm-hmm.
The
Imbecile.
Because the handhelds could not handle hyper realism.
Mm-hmm.
It was long into the 3DS's life before they could attempt to get to that. And even I think that was all only on the 3DS,
Probably.
which is more powerful. And so, obviously, what are you going to pick? Are you going to pick an art style that can best use the hardware for, maximum game? Or are you going to pick realism at the cost of memory for gameplay? And
I'll
this
take
is
the game that has better gameplay over realism.
Any day of the week. And Nintendo is the major company for the AAA space that has consistently done that.
Right.
And, well, there's a reason Nintendo games age well, and your more hyper-realism games tend not to, in terms of art. Because
I mean, look at Breath of the Wild. Like, even though he's not saying it, he's saying it's not realistic. It is more realistic than a lot of other games. But because of that, their engine can't take a lot of other things that it probably could have if you would have just, not used up as much space trying to make all the characters look as good.
Yeah, there's a fine balance to be had, and engine, and like obviously the engine is a big deal in it, but I'll say with the handhelds right here, this is just a stupid argument to even bring up.
Yep.
They either went for Wind Waker's big head style or a new chibi mini style like Link Between Worlds. And that means that the single...
Which I'm pretty sure A Link Between Worlds is beloved, so... I've never heard anything bad about it. Never played it, though, so...
outlier throughout all these years is Twilight Princess, a game that only made the way it was because of fan criticism of the art style. And a game that is now 15 years old.
You also forgot about Link's crossbow training, you fake fan.
Right.
So I'd say we're long overdue for a more realistic look again. And I don't really get why they're going in this route. In all the hardware tech demos, they show an awesome realistic Link style. In Smash Brothers and other spin-off games, it's all classic.
How many other spin-off games have there been?
He's literally only said the same ones over and over again.
Yeah, and Smash Bros. Isn't a Zelda spin-off game. It's a Smash Bros. Game. Hyrule Warriors is a spin-off game. Does he mean the Tangle games in the DS or on the Game Boy that were Japan only? Because those use the Wind Waker style.
Classic looking, but in the main series games...
Also, again, it's Dynasty Warriors. It has its own style.
We're only seeing cel-shaded painting or toon styles. Plus, by only having these games look like this, I'd say it oversaturates the uniqueness of these different styles.
That is such a bizarre
Oh, he's upside down.
He's jumping.
I know, but he paused it right there.
I did. But to sit there and be like, ah, yes, these art styles are no longer as good because they are all different and released in a span of 10 years? The fuck?
Let me ask you, in another 20 years, would you rather go back and play... Like, when our graphics have become so realistic, it's just ridiculous to, like, think of anything else. Would you rather play Ocarina of Time? Or, well, since he said he liked Ocarina of Time, even though it's not, like, graphically the same, let's say, would you rather replay Wind Waker with its cute, campy look, which ages extremely well, or would you rather play Twilight Princess, which will look like absolute ass by the time we get to that point?
Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And that's not to say Wind Waker is the better game, because gameplay-wise, Twilight Princess is the best Zelda game.
But he's talking about, like,
but yeah, he's talking
about graphics and looks and stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, like Zelda, Twilight Princess, if the because I played through it on GameCube a little bit before the HD remake came out or got announced,
Mhm.
and I replayed the HD remake, and the HD remake looks fantastic, but it doesn't look as good as the to me personally does not look
Mhm.
as good as the Wind Waker HD, because
Right.
I think the cartoony art style helps a game age.
Oh, sure.
There's a reason why Mario and Sonic are still iconic.
Uh-huh.
and so causes them to not stick out as much. And trust me, right, last thing I want to see is this series turn into The Legend of Skyrim with every game trying to mimic real life, but by the looks
That is literally what you are arguing for.
Mhm.
of it at least, I think most people can agree that there needs to be a balance of stylized and realistic Zelda games. So
There
that
sure
was the
has
point
been.
of the video, just to talk about the different art styles of Zelda games and say why I want to see another realistic one. So comment and tell me what your favorite Zelda art style is.
Well, what's your favorite Zelda art style? I think you said earlier, but we'll say it again for his sake. I know he's not listening.
A mixture of realistic and I know he's not listening. Mixture of realistic and stylized. So that's what I would consider Ocarina. I don't think it's realistic.
I would say out of all the Zelda games, my favorite art style out of all of them is probably the Breath of the Wild one, followed closely by the Ocarina of Time. Not really the biggest fan of the painting from Skyward Sword personally, but
I'm not either.
I'm well aware that's a me thing.
I guess I already did those polls, so I kind of have a general consensus at this point. So comment whatever you like. See ya!
Infinite Bites. Another channel I've never heard of, who very well is probably popular. But there we go. Pretty sure there's nothing else to... Yeah, it's just this. So there we go. I forced Aura to sit through some stupid things with me again. I'm sure he's very excited.
Extremely.
Well, dear viewer, if you have stumbled across this, let us know. Are we just mean? Are we poopy heads? Are we just being mean to poor Infinite Beats? Or are we correct and he just doesn't understand the words he's using? Which
Or is his infinite bits even less than an 8-bit?
it very well might be less than an 8-bit. Who can say what number infinite really is? Anyway, let us know, give us feedback. Have a wonderful day.
And may the Groose be loose.